Hi everybody. So I had a feeling to talk about the topic of courage today. Courage. Where do you get courage? How do you act upon it, and how do you live it? Right? I mean, looking back at my life, I've had courageous moments. I've had moments where it's so hot here. I've had moments where facing challenges in my life, like I had goals. I wanted to do a certain study. I wanted to meet a certain girl. I wanted to get to a certain place. For that, I needed to go through challenging situations where it was required of me to go through situations where there were elements of the unknown, when there was unpredictable situations where I did not have the confidence that things would turn out great. In those moments, I remember I used a lot of times psychological techniques where I would say things like, feel the fear and do it anyway, or be present in your body and look at the fear, disidentify yourself from the fear, try to analyze it, or try to see that the fear is not real. Because if you feel into the fear and then you ask, am I gonna die from this? No. And then it's just a matter of, let's say, pushing yourself over the edge of believing into the fear. It's like you're holding on to the fear, but because you feel that it's there, but it's not like a substantial or a reality. It is like a temporary feeling that just came up and will disappear. So you can push yourself over it. It's I remember for me, it was like about drive and motivation, motivating myself, telling myself stories, or giving myself time to. I remember one time where I was in class. So I went to acting school, and we had to prepare like this. I don't remember what it was, but we had to prepare something, and we were doing it with like a famous actor who was our teacher for that semester. And I remember I was downstairs and I knew I had to prepare, but I didn't prepare anything. Or I had like some idea, but I didn't prepare it. And I had such deep fear. And I remember sitting downstairs, walking back and forth, trying all kinds of things, thinking, what will happen if I go away? What will happen if I go? What's the worst that can happen? Like trying to use all these psychological techniques to talk myself into doing it. And it was very interesting. I did it anyway, and I went and I did it, and it was awesome. It was great. It felt really great. And afterwards there was this elation because I could use the anxious energy in whatever I was doing. So that's also like a thing I learned, like the energy of fear, the anxiety, you can use it in your expression, in your endeavors, in your movements, in your actions, or in your expressions. Yeah, in my expressions. Now, the way I experience fear now is a bit different than when I used to do it before. So I remember when I was not very much into spirituality, whenever fear would come up, I would feel it, and then I would be at the mercy of it. There would be no way to deal with it. And over the years, the last couple of years, through my experiences with spirituality and psychedelics and energy modalities and meditation and Kriya Yoga, different things, they became an apparent ability to shift my states of consciousness, to alter my state of consciousness, to, as it were, choose how I want to feel and then surrender to that feeling. So a feeling of love or joy, or what would also start to happen was, I would, like, in my memory, I would have like these memories of moments where everything just went right in synchronicity, where I felt like things were just like following each other, one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And when you're having that experience, it feels so awesome, because you're just going through experience so smooth, so seamlessly, just like flying through it. Now, all of a sudden, I remember this very well. I had this I guess, a way of being by which I could focus on a state where I was in flow, in sync, and I could tune my frequency or alter my state of consciousness to the same like it was back then. And you know what? It worked, because all of a sudden I felt my energy would shift, and I would just be flowing. I would just flow, and whatever situation I was going through, I would just be in that flow like I was in the past. But then what I noticed was, the more that I did this, I realized I was using I was using altered state of consciousness to transcend fear, to transcend not having to deal with anxiety or fear or whatever. It was like, I have a certain point of view towards everything that's happening now, and I'm like, this is too scary, I cannot handle it, so I'm gonna shift to a set of configurations energetically where I was just in flow. And so I'm shifting, and all of a sudden I relate in a different way to this, and I just flow through it, or everything's just happening by itself. And I started to do this very often, and looking back on it, I realized it gave me great experiences. It allowed me to enjoy a lot of beautiful things, but it also, like, in my own experience, it limited me. It limited me because I talked about this with my friend today. Everything was flowing when I'm in a state. Everything can unfold very smoothly when I'm in a state. But I'm always limited by that state, in the sense that I'm not completely open to the moment, because I'm functioning from a certain state. So I'm only open as far as that state allows me to be open. Now, I've tried other meditations. I've tried non-duality meditations, where I put myself basically into a non-dual state, and basically you become like a witness or an observer, and everything's just like flowing like water. Everything's just unfolding by itself. It almost seems too easy. It's like if you're playing a video game, this is like super easy setting, and everything's just flowing. You don't have to do any effort. You only have to observe and witness, and sometimes there's like a moment, a situation, where you just have to allow. You just feel like you can either hold on to resistance or allow, and when you allow, you keep on flowing, keep on flowing, keep on flowing. It's beautiful, because you're living in the unknown, you're discovering things, you're experiencing so many alive moments, because you're constantly in discovery. It's like, and now this, 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 and now this. It's constant discovery. And it's alive. Now, I remember it was a couple of years ago. I had a trip planned to go to New York, to a workshop by a very famous acting coach, like an acting coach who works with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, and like a really great acting coach. And I remember I was so hesitant to go, so hesitant. But then I used an older state of consciousness, and then my body was just going on automatic pilot, and I was just like observing. I was just in this flow, and everything was just happening. I knew exactly when I needed to put into my suitcase. I knew exactly when I had to leave. I knew exactly when I had to go. Everything was just going smoothly. So I'm on the train, and this was a period where I had like a real intense relationship over the course of a couple of days or 1-2 weeks, that was really fastly unfolding, that was really energetically charged, and that took me really deep. It was like going through getting to know each other, honeymoon phase, falling in love, all of that in like really accelerated phase. It was like a movie played out and really fast. There's so many layers that were seen through. So I remember I was going, and I said goodbye to her. I was like, I'm going to New York, and I'm gonna go back, and while I'm back, we'll meet up again. So I remember going to New York. I had this feeling of like, oh, I really don't want to leave love. I don't really want to leave this now that I've got this. And so I don't know why, but my whole energy going there was like very resistant. And so I arrive at the airport, and what do you know? There was like an issue with the flight. There was like some kind of threat or some kind of problem, so they canceled the flight to a different date, and they were gonna refund me the money. So all of a sudden I realized like, okay, I really was like, okay, I'm not supposed to go. So immediately I dumped my bags and I went straight back to the girl. And then, yeah, a lot of things unfolded with her. And with her, there were a lot of situations where there wasn't like fear for intimacy. There was fear for actually taking responsibility, for commitment, for taking the next steps, for starting something. And because when you're committed with somebody, when you really decide to go together and walk a certain path, you can do this a couple of ways, but how I did it was, or how it unfolded was, there was a certain agreement. I'm gonna take these responsibilities, you're gonna take these responsibilities, we make this deal, and we're gonna do our share. We're gonna share the responsibilities. Now I remember going through that, a lot of fears came up, because all of a sudden, before I was living it for myself, and now I was living for the love of this woman, and I was trying to do and act and behave in ways by which the love was like supported. And it was so unenjoyable because I realized I didn't really want to do it. And I was so unaware of how attached I was, and how much I believed that I was just divinely in love, and I wanted to love, and this was gonna be the answer to all my life, basically. What that experience taught me is that no matter how much you love somebody, if you expect somebody to change for you, you will be disappointed every time. Because people will never do what you want them to do just because you love them. There's a point in your life when you realize that everything you're trying to get from another person is just a substitute. It's just a way of not having to face your own feelings, a way of not having to deal with your feelings or confront what you've been trying to avoid, which is your loneliness. Having to look at the loneliness. What is the loneliness about? Why are you somebody who's lonely? Why do you feel lonely? What beliefs create the feeling of loneliness? Maybe what happened in the past that makes you feel lonely. I mean, there's so many layers to this, but it took me quite a while to realize that there's a difference between unconditional love or free love or relating in freedom versus wanting to be in a relationship with somebody. Wanting to be in a relationship with somebody. It was a constant struggle of having to uphold promises, uphold behaviors, attitudes, so that you would please the other person, and the other person was getting from you what they wanted to get from you. Otherwise, they were unhappy, unfulfilled in a relationship. So it's constantly having to play a part, to act someone who you don't necessarily want to be. Well, you do want to be in love, in the love connection with this person. And it's only after going through the breakup and going through different phases where the fears become apparent. Like just imagining, like, what if my partner leaves me? And feeling that in my body. There was a feeling of pain and sadness, nostalgia. If I imagine it now, like if I imagine like my partner leaving me, I would just feel peace in my heart because I know I'm not responsible for them and they're not responsible for me. I used to really think that if I'm with somebody, I'm responsible for their happiness, or I'm responsible for their well-being, or I'm responsible for them in a way. And it's only now through trial and error that I see that God is responsible for everything. I have a very small part to play, but I don't have the illusion anymore that I know better than God who needs what life experience. I had this idea that people were living a certain way, going through certain experiences, and I projected that they were suffering or they were not happy. And then I started to get into action to try to help them, get them out of that situation. I would see that like this is something that I recently heard from a teacher, and it was very interesting to me. I don't know, you don't have to believe in past lives and reincarnation, but there's a really like interesting concept the way it was explained. So if you have a person, right, who's suffering in any kind of way, let's say not enough food or a certain illness or not enough money, or bad relationship, or whatever. And every time you see the suffering of people, every time you want to take away their pain, it's like you don't know whether or not those people are not better off having that. Maybe that is what they need to go deep enough in their process to discover something. Because if there's no way out, if nobody's coming to save them, if they're all alone, if they realize that they have to go through what they're going through, and all their escape mechanisms don't work, they have to face what they were avoiding all this time. And then beautiful things can happen, because the person can literally go through transformation. In that process of transformation, they can discover values. They can discover their ability to endure or withstand pain or suffering. They can learn to empathize with other people. They can learn the depth of feelings and the reality of illusions and truth. Because if there's something in you causing you pain, if you're suffering, probably, not saying that I know that it's always like that, probably the suffering is because there's some illusion. Because if you had no resistance, if you didn't have a thought that things should be different, that they need to be different, you wouldn't be suffering. You would just go with it and live it out. I don't say that there's not things that you can do to change your circumstances, but it's about how do you relate to it, how do you perceive it, and what reaction are you having to the experiences that are coming in your life and that are occurring in your life. How do you feel in those situations? Do you feel like a victim? Do you feel like it's not fair? Do you feel like it should be different, like you don't deserve this? All these kind of things. It's very subtle, but it's a very important part of life. For me right now, a lot of things are breaking down in my life. A lot of things. In a way, it's good, because I understand energetically my energy isn't invested anymore, and the things that are asking for my energy to be invested are not receiving my energy, so they're falling apart, and it's just all breaking down. Because of that, what was this pain and a lot of reactions. Now I have a wish or a longing to move to a new place, but I also have fears. Now I can go about this two ways. I can analyze the fear, try to let go of it. I can talk myself, motivate myself. I can do coaching. I can do write out positive, the negatives, and then decide. I can do like worst case scenario. What's the worst that can happen? And then what can I do? What can I do to prevent that from happening? Or how will I deal if this worst case scenario happens? And then can I accept them? I can like think it out, put my mind at ease, or make myself feel as though I am prepared, as if I know that everything's gonna be fine, or everything in the unpredictable can still feel like I have the sense that it's gonna be safe. Or And this is what I feel that I really need to do is I can just forget about myself. I can forget about who I was or who I thought I was and who I have been till now, and just have the humility, and this is real humility, to feel the fear, take one step after the other in front of me, and just walk through it as slow as I can allow myself to go, but just walk through it, because I know I don't need to expect anything. I'll just walk through it. Now here, I'll either need to have trust in life that will support me, that will catch me up, that everything's gonna be flowing synchronistically, or everything's gonna be guided and I will be supported, or I can look at it like, this is what life in me is wanting, is longing for, and I honor that. And I've lived everything before this in a certain way, and I see what the results are. I see where it got me to. I see how I feel, how I experience, what the creation of it was. And maybe now is a time to try something different, just to try. And I must say, like, thinking about it, of just jumping off the cliff, feeling as though I almost forget about who I was and just discover in the moment what is. In a way, it feels like, even the thought of it feels so freeing. Makes me feel as though I live for the first time and just discover and go through it. And I realize now that because the courage that was required for me to make certain decisions wasn't there or readily available for me. Because it wasn't there, I didn't do anything. So now everything is just breaking down till I have no choice but to walk ahead, because nothing's working out. And I often wondered, why don't I have the courage? I usually had courage when I was really fed up with things. When I was really disappointed or fed up with things, and I became angry because I realized it's not working, and I became angry. And because of that anger, I had an energy, a fire to just go through whatever I need to go through. But the other, or like the backlash from that, or not the backlash, but the experience of doing that, is that when I was coming from that energy, I was running away from something to something better, and I was not really enjoying what I was going through. Because I didn't let go. I was disillusioned, I was disappointed, I was upset, I was fed up. So I wanted something better. So I'm looking for something better. And because I'm looking for something better, what I want for something better, I'm missing the small things. I'm missing the intimacy with life, with the unfolding moment to moment. So for me right now, it's a really interesting process to see how it's like an organic thing where something was born, something lived, it lived a certain way, it tried certain things, and then it just shriveled and died. And then out of that, something new was reborn. And that something new that was reborn, or that is being reborn, it's literally like a self-discovery, like almost like having to fully letting go of your life, because you go through, like going through, for me that's going through a grieving process of letting go. It's almost like just dying and letting go, and then being open to receive, being open to just witness life, and being relaxed with it, being at ease with it, and allow life to teach you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I don't know if what I said made any sense at all, but that's what I'm going through right now. Goodbye.